Hey, how you doing, Naomi? And look, Søren's even here. Lady, how are you?
I'm well, Charles. How about you, sir?
Good. Okay, I got your photo of is it your brother or your brother-in-law?
My cousin?
Your cousin, okay.
One of my many cousins.
Okay. Yeah, we could talk about that.
Okay.
Your desire.
Oh, yeah.
A piece of artwork around that.
Okay.
Actually, while I'm talking about Sørensen in a piece, and he's working on a painting right now. That is, I think it's his 2 grandchildren. And so a lot of the things that we're talking about would apply to what you're wanting to do as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Shadow the doors.
So everybody have a good lunch?
Yes. Yes.
Good. Yeah, we got about another minute here. Give everybody time to get here. And then we'll start kind of going through stuff.
Hey,
All
Charles,
righty.
hear me?
Pardon?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. How are you doing, Søren?
Fine. Just lately got back into painting a few days ago. I haven't
Well,
painted
yeah.
since COVID.
Yeah, I saw the piece that you sent me, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today.
Yeah, hope you can help me in detail how I could finalize that painting to be a little bit more professional looking.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna talk about a lot of different things here today. You know, people's work, but the first thing I'm going to go over, and this might actually be a benefit to you as well, Søren, is I'm going to go over. I had sent, well, I didn't send it, but I'd shown you guys a color chart, right? Mixing flesh tones. Okay. And I'm going to share that with you. Okay, so you guys can see it more clearly. And if you want to take a screenshot of it, you can. But also, I'm going to send it out in an email to everyone.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. So there's the shot of it. Now I went a little further. Okay. And somebody asked me about mixing, like darker skin tones. And so, there's a pretty good sample of making some pretty dark skin tones. And as you can see, you can get something that's really, really very, very close to black, okay? And it's, basically, out of the mixture of, these 5 colors, that I was talking about. In this particular case, this is probably violet, green, and just a little bit of touch of that cooler red. This is a touch, the same thing, the green and the violet, but with the warmer red, and maybe just a little touch of the flesh base in it. So, you really can get some very, very, very strong darks with that mixture. And, you really don't need to use black. You don't need to use raw umber. You can actually mix those values and those color mixtures, and you have a lot more control over temperature, right? Whether something is warmer or cooler than. And if you look at like the sample here between these two, there's a distinct difference. This tends to be cooler in temperature. This tends to be warmer in temperature. So I know that temperature is one of those things that a lot of people don't focus on. They mainly struggle with mixing, something in the general area of the right color family and the right value. And those are important. But, as you get along and you get stronger at mixing color, focusing more on the temperature and shifting the temperatures can do a lot as far as being able to actually create this illusion of 3-dimensional form for you. And not just on the figure, but, you know, really in anything, whether it's a tree or a tree trunk or, you know, a bowl, you know, or a piece of fruit, you know, any kind of object, three-dimensional object, you need to become more and more aware of color temperature, right? Now, I'm going to show you an artist's work in particular, okay? And since we're talking about painting the figure and portraits and things like that, this particular artist, let's see, I think he just passed away. I want to say it was like in maybe the 70s, okay? But he's very much so a classical artist, okay? And his name was Peter Seifert. And he had, you know, a really, really good grasp on mixing flesh tones. And, you know, when you look at this, you know, she's a fairly, you know, pale skinned woman, you know, slightly reddish hair. But if you will, look at the different areas of the figure and look at how he uses color and temperature. You know, there are some kind of pinkish areas in here that are kind of warm, but there are also these very kind of cool pinks, right? And then look at this, you know, it's very neutral over here, but considerably warmer than this shadow right here. And so, again, you know, he had really, really good masterful control over mixing his color and particularly what we would refer to as color temperature. You know, there's nothing accidental, you know, about these color shifts. You know, he's very intentional about them and also very intentional about, you know, the shifts in temperature. If
Right
you
there,
look
you
in,
see a lot of blue.
pardon?
Because right where you have it right now, you see a little blue coming in.
Yeah, right. But he probably didn't use blue. He probably used a violet.
Oh, okay.
See,
How do you spell his last name? His first name is Peters, P-E-T-E-R-S.
Seifert. Let's see. It's Sieffert, I believe. Okay, but I'll check that for you.
However, I did.
Anyway,
It's on the painting.
Pardon?
Mute.
It's on the
Yeah,
painting.
Sieffert. Yeah.
Secondly, the DC disclaimer
Right.
and DC
Seifert.
text forms.
And everybody
were
mute
submitted
Mute
as
your
a
sound. Everyone mute.
Yeah, somebody's talking in the background.
So, what I
You.
would recommend that you do is try it again, and you can
I'll tell you what.
send it to me.
Mute everyone, please.
Yeah, I will. Okay.
Thank
All right. Now that you're all muted. Okay. We'll go back to Peter's work. All right. So there's one example of his work. I think I had two up here for you to look at. Yeah. And again, just, you know, the subtlety. Whoop. Got the wrong one. Okay. The subtlety of the shifts in color, you know, as you move, you know, around the form, right? You know, how neutral and gray this is. And then how, again, and I think it was Bernice who kind of pointed out, you know, this almost looks just slightly blue, you know, but it's probably the use of a violet in there, maybe with a touch of green or something in it, you know, to get some of that cooler underlying color. And it really works really nicely, you know, to really turn the form on that figure. You know, she doesn't feel flat, you know, she feels dimensional. And, you know, it's just those little subtle shifts that make, you know, all the difference. And so I would highly encourage you to play with mixing color. Pardon?
The front part of the body is warm and yellows.
You mean the
whereas
reflection?
dark reflection, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Notice, yeah, it's considerably darker, but it's warmer, right?
Warmer. Very interesting.
Okay. And then, you know, all the color out here feels somewhat cooler in temperature, right? And whatever your lights, you know, if your lights are cool, then your shadows are going to be warm, right? And if your lights are warm, then your shadows are going to be cool. They're always going to be the opposite. Okay?
Charles,
Yes.
I got on late, so I missed a lot of this, but I see part of my problem. The edges seem to be soft, so how do I do that? Do I smudge the paint on the edges along there or something?
Yeah, once you lay down your shape or your form, and then you begin to lay in the background, you can take, if they're wet, if they're both wet, then you can take and just softly blend them, right? If they're not, let's say that you know, you painted in your background and then you put this edge of her body in, right? Well, come back with a clean, soft brush and then just, you know, begin to kind of soften that edge down just a little bit, okay? So it's not such a sharp, hard outline, okay?
Yeah, I will try that.
Yeah, yeah, it's an exercise in how to, you know, handle, you know, the material itself and brushes, and, you know, just having a light, soft touch, you know, and not really like scrubbing it or anything, but just lightly work over it and see if you can move just the paint just a little bit. You know?
Wherever there is light, do you then emphasize the edges lighter or something, lighter than the rest of the body?
Well, like for example,
Lighter
up
than the
here,
light?
yeah, up here on the arm, right?
Mhm.
See, you know, he came back in and he put, you know, a highlight, right? Because there was light hitting the top of that arm, and really the rest of the arm is really in shadow. It's not in deep shadow, but it's still not in direct light either. And so, see, he kept his edge here sharper, and then the edges, you know, in the shadows down here and along the body, really until he gets right into the light, you know, along that leg. You know, he kept all of these pretty soft. He let this be just a little bit sharper. Now, it's not real sharp. It's not nearly as sharp an edge here as it is like right in there.
So painting from a live model would make it easier to emphasize those light and dark areas, right?
Yeah, you'd be able to see more information, you know, and understand the form that you're looking at better than trying to paint from a photo.
Can
That
you
is
show the photo again in its fullness?
Oh, sure.
Photo, I mean the drawing.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And see, he,
Thank you.
like I said, he lived up until 1975. Okay. And I mean, he was born in like 1857 or something like that. And so he was classically trained, you know, and he was very much so a classical painter, you know, kind of in the style of like the Salon in Paris. But, you know, I kind of feel like really, really sad for guys in that particular period of time, because these classical artists that were, you know, really highly skilled, if you think about what was going on in the art world, and particularly, you know, in France and both in America at that period of time, you know, it was moving away from representational art. And, you know, the art world had kind of headed off in the direction of abstraction. So by the time that he died, his art was really out of fashion, you know, and a lot of these guys were sort of forgotten about, you know, even though they were, you know, wonderful artists. they just weren't doing, the things that the galleries were selling and, that was really being promoted as, contemporary modern art. He was basically seen kind of as a dinosaur, from, an era before. And it's a real shame because, there was a lot of beautiful art made from like 1900 to like 1970 or 80. And a lot of those artists were really kind of ignored, because they were doing representational art. And it wasn't really until around like probably the early 80s that this swing back toward representational art started again. And, they started actually teaching figure drawing and classical painting and stuff like that, at art colleges again. Before that, if you went to like a state university, you probably couldn't find a professor who could teach you how to draw the human figure because he was an abstract painter. And it's kind of like Lamar Dodd, here at Georgia, right? I mean, his method of teaching was, and I've had several of his students talk about it, he would show up for the first class and, he would say, okay, this is the studio, easels are over here, brushes are over here, materials over here. And it's like, that was all the instruction you got, it's just like, start painting, So, it was up to you to paint whatever you wanted to paint. And, for the most part, people just did this non-objective, putting paint on the canvas and experimenting. And that's, and yes, there's some value in working with the materials and learning how to use them. But, that doesn't improve your conceptual skill, your drawing skills, your skill for mixing color, things like that. And anyway, like I said, it's a real shame that, we almost lost, all of these teaching methods and, ways of learning that went back to, classical painting. And luckily they've been revived, and there were enough old timers around to actually be able to instruct and share, what they knew with people. And so now that's being taught at a lot of really good schools, like the Philadelphia Academy, some of the art schools like the Academy of Art, or, Ringling, Design Center, Rhode Island School of Design. All of those schools have good, solid painting programs now. The Art Students League, which was one of those rare kind of exceptions that never went away. That was kind of like one of the last, that and I think the Philadelphia Academy were like two of the very last bastions of, classical figurative art, that survived. And luckily, people got trained and started, sharing what they knew from there. And so now we're back into representational art again. Yay. Otherwise, I'd be a dinosaur. Well, I probably am a dinosaur. Okay, let's get rid of this.
So
All
would
right.
you say that now classical realism is being revived, or is it still obsolete? Because you don't see a lot of paintings like that in people's homes or in places for sale. They mostly, the ones I've seen are mostly abstract, contemporary abstract.
Yeah, well, it depends on where you look. Now, if you go to like a lot of home decor stores, things like that, they're heavily abstract. But actually, if you go to a lot of the higher end fine art galleries now, and particularly in New York, Chicago, LA, the big metropolitan centers, there's a huge revival back into realism. And right now, the hot thing is what's considered American realism. Both Western art, plein air, figurative art. I mean, that's kind of where it's at right now. And it's jumped the pond. It's gone back to Europe, and now a lot of the European artists are, doing some really, really good realistic work, particularly in countries like Portugal and Spain and Italy. There's a huge revival in particularly classical figurative art. Okay, so you can find a lot of young, quote unquote, young, probably people in their 40s and 50s now and younger, who, that's their thing. They paint the human figure, they paint architecture, they paint landscape, they paint, like things that you can really look at and go, I know what that is. Okay. Abstraction, it's not ever going to go away, right? It's never just going to disappear, and it shouldn't. It's just a different way of viewing the world, and there's validity in both. Okay, but my take on it is, if you want to be an abstract painter, that doesn't negate the fact that you still need to learn how to draw. You need to understand shape and form and how to model color and create this illusion of dimension. Okay, whether or not you're painting abstractly or representationally, it doesn't matter. Those basic skills are still really important, and that gives you, as an artist, a lot of latitude about how you can approach solving a problem. So anyhow, we kind of got off on a tangent there, but all right, so let's go back. Let's start looking at you guys' work. Okay, we're going to go back to that flesh tone chart. And Eloise, I don't know if you were here. You said you came in late, but you see, I expanded this chart a little bit, and I did this string of darker skin tones and like very, very fair, pale skin tones. Now, I know it almost shows up as white here, but it's not. It's actually, a mixture, a lighter mixture of this, extended all the way out with more and more white added to it. And so, I mean, there's, this is just a small beginning, but you can literally make probably hundreds of thousands of variations of skin tones just off of this basic chart right here.
The darker colors on the right have purple, the dioxanate, and the green added to them. The reason you got them darker. How did you make them darker?
Are you talking about here in the skin tone? Yeah, up here in the dark skin tone? Yeah. Yeah, this is a mixture of the dioxin and the green with a little bit of this cooler red in it right here. And that's the base. And as you can see, it makes something very, very close to black. Okay, very close to black. And then if you started adding this flesh base into it, see, all the way up. See, you begin to get lighter and lighter, and it kind of shifts, it begins to look a little more red toward the top. That red in there actually shows up. Over on this side, it's the same green, the same violet, but instead of that cooler red, we've put this warmer cadmium red in it. And see how much warmer skin tone is? To move up. Okay. So, and we were talking a little bit about the fact that, and it takes practice. You really have to start looking at somebody's skin tone and start trying to figure out what colors are in there. Are they warmer or are they cooler? And do you need to start off with this warmer red, or do you need to start off with the cooler red, to get their particular skin tone? And 9 times, I would say probably like 90% of the time, the choice isn't going to be whether they have purple or green in them. it's going to be which of these two reds are you going to build those strings of skin tones off of, you know, and so you've got to really look very carefully and determine whether they have what you would feel a warmer skin tone in that lighting situation, or is it a cooler skin tone? And that's how you're going to pick one of those two to begin to make.
Cooler red is what color? The cooler red is what red?
The cooler of the two reds is this rose, you know, permanent rose, or a alizarin crimson if you use alizarin. You know, yeah, they're both a little more shifted to the blue side than to the yellow or the orange side. You know, like the cadmium is. Cadmium's definitely a lot warmer in comparison to this. Okay. So, all right. So let's get rocking and rolling on you guys.
Can I ask you something?
Say what?
Can I ask you something? On the picture that you show different color in the shadows or skin tone.
You're saying on Seifert's work?
Yeah. If you paint from a photograph, you basically don't have that kind of a reference.
Well, yeah, that's one of the problems with, you know, taking a photo. You know, even a very, very good digital camera, it doesn't capture nearly the subtlety that the human eye does. And so that's the value of, you know, painting from life. So you'll see those shifts in temperature and value that you won't see in a camera. Okay.
But to
Now-
paint to that level of quality, does it not require pretty long sessions or sessions?
Yeah, it would. You know, I mean, he probably did a couple of figure studies with that model, you know, before he ever got into doing the final painting. So he probably painted her 4 or 5 times in that pose, you know.
Yeah, but also you need layering too, don't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, that final piece of art that you saw was what we would call a traditional painting. So it was not an alla prima painting. It was, you know, he did an underpainting and then he built his color up through transparent glazes on top.
So for us, less advanced painters, you know, is it not kind of next to impossible for us to get to that kind of effect without really?
No, you can get it. You just have to, you know, you'll have to move slowly. You know, when you start getting in the figure, then you're gonna have to go back in and start reworking it and determining, you know, where you're gonna make those cooler and warmer temperature shifts based off of your observation and whatever reference you've got.
Thank you.
Okay. It's like when I go down and you know, if I'm doing a live figure painting session at the Atlanta Artist Center, I know that I have about an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours to capture that figure, right? And what I'm really looking for is, I'm not looking for the details, but I'm trying to get the lengths, proportions, the composition, and what I really pay attention to is what's happening with the color. And where do I see it warmer and where do I see it cooler? And I'll go ahead and I'll make those notes. And, you know, if the model is agreeable to it, okay, and this is important, you know, if the model's agreeable to it and she or he is okay with taking photographic reference, then I'll go ahead and I'll shoot a series of photos. But I don't rely on the photos for my color. What I rely on my photos for is for details and, you know, a photographic reference to, you know, make a more accurate drawing. Okay.
Yeah, Charles, but I think most of us won't have access to light paintings in that level. how do we, or can you perhaps give us some,
Well, okay, like for example, you're painting your granddaughters, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So rather than jumping in and doing the painting of you and your granddaughters all together, you know, maybe you have one of them sit and you do a couple of studies of her and you kind of explore what her skin tones are, right? And you begin to get a palette put together, you know, to match her skin tones. And then you do the other child. You do the same thing. You'll have to look in a mirror, but that's not really going to give you accurate color. But that's about as close as you can get.
okay, so you are saying that you paint from life.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Which is kind of difficult.
Well, not really. It's something to get used to. Okay.
The availability is the issue.
Hey, you know, I know for a fact that
Yeah.
you have people in your household who I'm sure, you know, if you were really, you know, kind of nice to your wife, you know, and you asked her to sit for you, you know, she would probably come sit for you, you know, for an hour or two at a time, you know, throughout the week. And you could probably accomplish a life painting of her.
Yeah, the
Right.
skin tone of each individual is so different though.
It is, yeah. And it's going to, well, and it's not just the individual, it's the individual and the situation, the lighting situation that they're in. Because that affects the color of everything.
So I
Okay.
think the most personally that I gain is painting light at Benson. You know? That
Painting
to
like
me-
what?
Painting light
Uh-huh.
models at Benson.
Yeah. Well,
That to me is a better.
well, yes. And if Benson were open, we would be doing that. But you know,
No.
yeah, that's not something that, you know, we can do right now. So, but hey, you know, hopefully one day we're going to be heading back there. So,
So,
all right. So anyway, let's move on here. So this is some of the things that Bernice sent in. Bernice, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
There you are. Hey, dear. So tell us a little bit about these.
Well, actually, what you're looking at right there came from the internet.
Right.
And my sister died in July of last year, and I wanted to send her children something special. So I took the poem. You see, it has a little chair with it.
Right.
I took the chair and I put it, and see the vase that's on the left? The vase that's on the left of the picture of the poem. So
Yeah.
I put the chair and the Christmas tree inside the vase, which is the next picture.
Right. And that's
Because what it talks about is your loved ones save a seat for your loved ones because they're coming.
right. Okay.
So I made these for her
That's nice.
daughters.
I
Okay.
like that.
All right. Okay.
You got
So
three
now,
different chairs.
yeah, now it seems to make sense. Okay. Well, yeah, she's got three
Very
different
nice.
like candle holders, vases, or whatever. And then,
I actually made 3 for the males too, but I was running so late, you probably won't get it until Wednesday.
oh, okay.
But yeah, I just made a different chair for each one of them and a different colored tree.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's a painting. It's a painting. Bernice, it's a painting.
Yeah, it's a painting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She painted this on glass.
Oh, on glass. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's painted on canvas.
Oh. Oh, okay.
It's just that, yeah, I just put some white on it and make it look like it's glass.
Glass. Okay. Well, you did a good job at that.
That's very
Yes,
nice.
you did. It looks great.
What size is it? What size is the canvas?
I think it's 9 by 12.
Oh, that's a nice size.
Mhm.
Okay. So you sent, now there were, how many children total?
6.
6? Okay.
There are 3 girls and 3 boys. But like I say, the boys was I sent her in a little late. But yeah, I want all of them to have something different, you know.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me ask you something about this, okay? Because I'm looking at it. And my question is, did you use a metallic paint on this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's actually like a gold metallic
Yeah.
paint.
A gold, yes. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, because I was kind of wondering, it seems to have, you know, that like really reflective, shiny effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, you did a good job at that.
You
Ciao,
did,
ciao.
Bernice. Bernice, that is very nice.
Yeah.
Now,
Huh?
now,
To make the
You have-
hurricanes look
you have
like glass.
incredible sharp eye.
Okay, Eloise, you had a question?
To make the hurricanes look like real glass, did you use white paint or gray paint or white and gray?
I use well, mostly white, but I try to use a little bit of the background in some spots and a little bit of white in some spots, you know.
Okay, yeah. So
Was
it
it-
actually picked up some of the red in the background there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, you pulled that effect off very nicely.
I think so.
Okay.
Very nice.
I think that's one of those questions I got asked here a couple times, like, well, how do you paint glass? So,
Oh, now this picture I can't talk about because that's actually one I got from the internet, and somehow I forgot to send you mine.
oh, okay. All
I
right. So
can't
you don't
talk
have,
about
yeah, I was gonna ask you how these related to, you know, your other pieces, but
They don't. They
they
don't.
don't.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. But
I
they
think-
will when you send me the artwork that you're doing, right?
No.
Oh.
These really are for me. I love that India Ari song.
Uh-huh.
I like, so I really painted something for myself. You know, I paint those for myself. I am
Oh, okay.
like. Mhm,
All right.
mhm.
And you're not going to share it with us?
Yeah, it's in your email, but I sent it probably at 1:55 or something.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I'll have to go back and look. All right. Okay. All right. And then we got, this is Bob. And this is supposedly his latest painting, and they're sea turtles. Is that right, Bob? Bob, are
that's
you?
that's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And this is your painting, right?
Yes, it is my painting.
Okay, good. I didn't mess that up.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what's going on here on their backs?
Their backs. That's the kind of tortoise shells that there, or the turtle shells that they're there.
Uh-huh.
And the little white specks are barnacles.
Oh, okay.
That grow on turtles' backs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but
Okay.
they do.
Okay. All right.
This-
Yeah, because I was looking at it like that looked a little bit three-dimensional, like you really built up the paint there.
Well, I mean, but in alla prima method, yeah, I put a lot of paint on the canvas at once.
Okay. All right.
Here's some information about Grapevine. Grapevine
But this is interesting because I went to, or say I went online, a guy by the name of Guy Harvey, who's a pretty good painter of fish and sea life.
Mm-hmm.
He had a little demo Saturday and challenged the people who were listening to come up with their versions of their sea turtles and send them to him. And so I will send this to him and see if my sea turtles, these are called hawksbill.
Yeah, Hawksbill. Yeah.
Sea turtles. And so see what he thinks.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking. Let's see. Yeah, sea turtles came up for me actually this weekend. I was looking at a house that's down on a beach towards St. Augustine. And evidently there's a stretch of beach there, and you know, the sea turtles come up and lay their eggs right up like next to these houses, you know. So it's something, you know, it's like you can use the beach part of the year, but when the sea turtles are out there, they kind of rope it off so you can't get access to the beach because, you know, they're trying to, you know, save the sea turtles. And with people running all over the beach, you know, it, you know, crushes the eggs and stuff. So anyhow, speaking of beaches, somebody's doing a series of beaches. Okay? All right.
Good.
So, Eloise, you want to tell us about these?
That's near St. Simon's, near St. Simon's.
Mhm.
And it's just it was just a picture. a photograph that I had taken, and I just tried to redo it. I'm not very good at seascapes, so, but I need to work on that. In fact, one of the pictures I sent is a study, and I think I'll develop it. But this is acrylic, and it's just a picture of the sea.
Okay. All right.
And so is the other one.
Yep. Okay. Well, you got 3 of them.
The last
So-
one is a scene off at Miami Beach.
Oh, okay. So now you said this was acrylic, right?
Yes,
And is this done on a canvas or is this done on?
yes.
It is. Okay.
It's about a 12 by 14 or something like that.
Okay.
No, 12
So-
by 16.
When I'm looking at this, okay, just looking at the paint surface and stuff like that, all of the sky area seems like it's real thin and kind of just washed in. Is that correct?
Probably. I did this some time ago.
Oh, okay. And you don't remember whether it's
It's
thin?
but I did it with a thin layer of it, I think, watered down.
Yeah, that's kind of, yeah, because it looks like almost like watercolor, in a sense, because the color is a little bit diffused, in the water. Okay. And then you got a little bit thicker, as you've come down, and you got a little more paint, in these areas, which is kind of nice. So, okay. And then you got your plants up here in the foreground. And you got some pretty nice contrast, the dark of this against the sky. And even this, it's got a good value contrast, but it's also a shift in temperature and intensity. So really about the only thing about this painting that I would make a comment on, that I would probably suggest maybe approaching a little bit differently, is that, as you head toward the horizon line up here, right? And this back area of the water, I would gray that down, and not keep it quite so intense, because the intensity, and value is really quite dark right here. And so because it's so dark and so intense, it kind of pulls forward, right? And you really want it to sit back. And so muting that color down would help that move backward, and then let all the color up here begin to pull forward. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, but I thought that someone had told me, I guess, that if there's a distance involved and it's water, the further away you go, the darker blue it is. That's not.
Well, okay, it could be. Well, okay. There's no hard rule fast on, I can't even talk. It's Monday. There's no hard and fast rule on that. It will depend on the atmospheric conditions. All right. Now, generally, when you look toward the horizon line, yeah, there is more contrast. Okay. But now, contrast is a matter of those 5 types of contrast, right? It's about the value, right? The intensity, the color family, yada, 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 right? So in this case, it can be a dark value, but that doesn't mean it has to be an intense dark value. See, we can lower the intensity of the color, the value can still be dark, which if you grade that down, and gray doesn't make it lighter, it's just the saturation of the color, it will move it further back. That way, when you have that very same dark blue here, see, that begins to look closer to us. See, because of the intensity of this versus if that were more muted, that would push that back, right?
Right.
But what we're actually seeing is that the blue here and the blue here and kind of the blue right there and over there, they're all kind of about the same. So that's not saying that this area of the water is any closer to us than back here. See? So it's just that slight shift in intensity. right? In this case, not necessarily value, but intensity, okay? All right. Yeah, there are times, you know, when you're, you know, at the beach and you look out and, you know, like particularly early morning, and if it's early morning and there's a lot of mist in the air and it's kind of cloudy, sometimes, you know, that horizon line just blurs away and it's almost like not even there. So it can really just disappear right into the sky at times. But, you know, on bright, sunny, clear days, for the most part, you know, what you were told is correct. You know, toward the horizon line, it does actually get darker, you know. But that doesn't mean darker and more intense. That just means darker in value. Okay? So, you know, same kind of thing here. Now, you've handled this better because you haven't taken any of this blue and put it up in here, see? And so all of this green is warmer, right? And seems to be more intense in color than this blue. And so now the value of the blue does move back to the horizon line on this one, okay? So that, you know, this one actually works better color-wise, you know, foreground to background. And then we have, you said this is Miami?
Oh.
Eloise? I can't hear you.
I thought I was not, I
Oh,
didn't know I was muted. That's
Yeah.
what I did last night, and I was trying, I have a lot of photographs of Miami because I go there a lot, and this is a scene off the balcony. And the sunrises are really beautiful, and I was trying to do a study of one that I hope to make a larger painting maybe later on.
okay. All right.
It's just,
So yeah, I like the lighting in it, and you know, you've got good depth in it. Again, you know, it's a matter of how do you kind of push and pull that space, right? And get, now is this like a dock or a pier or something like that?
it's the skyline of Miami Beach.
That's, okay, so that's a skyline. Okay, so that's a city that's kind of far away.
Right.
So, you know, this is grayed down, and, you know, so that's fine, you know, and if this were back here, and then the color and everything on, you know, these little islands or land masses, if you put a little more color in these so that the intensity was a little stronger in them, they would move forward, see?
The picture shows them absolutely black though, because
Well,
I guess of the time of day.
Right, but even if it is quote unquote black, right, which there really is, unless we're in, you know, outer space, right, there is no black really, because it's the absence, total absence of light, right? These have to be some kind of color, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they have to be like bright red or anything like that, but, you know, could be very muted, but still, you know, more intense and showing more color here would help you move that forward closer to you, right? And then if you left these as neutral as you have them, then they would sit backward and feel further away. As it is, the intensity of all of these are all kind of about the same, right? And so again, it's not really helping you push and pull the space there the way that you need to make that feel like this is far away. And again, you know, I don't think that the problem is this. It's, you could just use a little color in these, you know, whether you make it, you know, it could be, you know, for the most part, these are not black. They're probably around a number 8 or 9 value, gray. And so let's say that you put just a little bit of green in each of these, right? Just a touch, not much. You know, automatically, these are going to be more intense than this. And that's going to move them forward. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We have Ilan here. Ilan, are you around?
I am, yes, sir.
There you are. Okay. I hadn't seen you today. How are you, sir?
I'm hiding.
You're hiding. Okay, don't hide.
No. I'm here.
Yep. Okay.
What
So-
is this? It's an old like sketch that I had,
Uh-huh.
and it was on white paper.
Okay.
And it was laying around, and then I saw somebody did on the internet or in one of your classes a similar sketch, and it did a nice background, different than mine. But so I started playing with it, and I'm still playing a little bit with the background, and it's all of a sudden it looks better.
Yeah. You know, yeah, I like what you've done with the background on it. And I love the color. You know, it's a very colorful piece. And the outline,
Thank you.
you know, the outline on, I'm going to call it a figure, okay?
Yeah.
You know, on this figure, you know, really separates it and makes it very different than this very loose painterly background that you've got, you know, behind it, right?
Yes.
And when I start looking at this, though, I do actually see a figure. You know, it's kind of like I see like a body, like probably a woman's body, and she's, you know, seated, and she's kind of leaning forward on one arm, you know, this arm
Yes.
right here, okay?
Yeah.
With her head and her shoulder and her torso coming down, with a leg here and a leg kind of going out there. Now, again, this is just me, okay? And I'm not telling you that you need to do this or anything, but if it were me, I would kind of unify these colors in some way, you know, so that, you know, it read more like a figure, and, you know, and play with it that way. But, you know, what you've got there right now works. You know, it's a nice design. Your separation of your color, you know, again, these are all kind of pure primary, secondary colors, with the exception of this red, which is a little bit muted. But again, you know, they're very separate from what's going on back here in the background. And that's good because, again, it unifies this whole shape into an object or something in space, right? So I like where that's going. That's kind of fun. Okay.
Thank
What are you
you.
gonna-
I'll play with it a little bit. Those figures like sketches I used to do from when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And like with a pencil or with a pen when in the classrooms.
Okay.
And on the back, I would sketch them like this and fill it out with a pencil. But so I did it again. And then the background makes it alive, you know, so I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, it puts it in some kind of context, you know, some kind of space.
Thank
Now,
you.
you also sent me this piece, and you said you were not happy with this.
This one, it just, I don't know. I started with not knowing what to do. So I did the background, and then I scraped some pink line and dripped it. And then I said, okay, I'll do some flowers. So I started with my bubble wraps.
Yeah.
And did some prints and started filling it out. So now that's where I am. Like, it's not the final. I'm still working on it.
Good. Okay. Because, yeah, I mean, I think this piece has a lot of possibilities of things that you could do to it.
Yeah.
you know, but you have a, you know, a good start here. And, you know, the color is really nice. There's a nice contrast between the red and the green. And you've got a warmer red here. And then, you know, something much cooler, you know, almost into the red violets and blue violets down here.
It was very blue, you know, all those bubbles were blue. So I decided to go over them because I didn't like the blue.
Okay.
And I started painting those. It's different today. It's like hanging behind my head.
Right. Yeah, I see it. So,
So I'm working on it.
okay. All right. So my only comment about it at this point is, you know, I like these areas right here, you know, where the pink goes over the blue and still some blue is showing through here. Try not to lose those.
Okay.
Okay. As far as your flowers go, the only thing I'd say about those is rather than make them all kind of the same, try to vary the reds a little bit. You know, they can all be kind of orangey red or red, but, you know, shift them a little bit so that they're not all the same red.
Okay.
Okay. Like this one's cooler here, which is, this one's a little bit warmer than that. And like these two, and then this. And these two tend to be the warmest, you know, kind of more toward orange. But
yeah,
if you break it up a little bit and really kind of push this, you know, maybe it's a warm red, but it's a slightly different warm red, either lighter or darker. Same thing with one of these that's cooler red. Again, shift it a little bit so that it's not all exactly the same. Okay?
Okay.
And yeah, I think that would help kind of push and pull some of those forward or backward. And you'd get, you know, the illusion of some depth and some space in there if you wanted it. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Charles?
Yeah.
This is Lady. 2 Sundays ago on the CBS Sunday Morning with Jane Pauley, they did a feature of an artist who did all of his painting inside of bubble wrap. And so if you look it up, I don't remember the young man's name. What he actually did, he would have large sheets of bubble wrap and would insert paint from the back side, the flatter side of the bubble. And his pictures are just unbelievable. And it's all done inside the bubble wrap. And so he would take a syringe and insert paint inside of the bubbles. So it was on the CBS Sunday morning program 2 Sundays ago.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that was something, Lon, you should look at. It's really, it was just amazing to see what this guy did inside of bubble wrap.
Yes.
It's very nice what he's doing. I watched him too.
Okay.
All right. So my question is this, all right, to either one of you, if you know this. All right. So his final piece of work then is a piece of bubble wrap with paint in the bubbles, right?
Yes.
Okay. Huh. Well, that's a slightly different medium.
And it's like large.
We discussed that already.
Right. It's the large pieces. It's huge gallery-sized pieces that he does.
Huh.
I thought we discussed that, Charles, already. It was another class.
The bubble wrap?
Yeah, I thought we discussed it already.
Well, we talked about Elon using bubble wrap in some of his paintings. He's been doing.
No, we talked about the one on Sunday morning too.
I know we did. I believe
Because
so.
someone was saying that it didn't last long or something like that.
Yeah, just said, yeah, wouldn't be permanent.
All right.
But it seemed that the way he was doing it, or you know how people take dots and make pictures out of them. He was just doing a lot of dots in the bubble wrap, and because it was so big,
right?
You know, that the dots made the picture.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's kind of like pixels, you know.
Exactly what it was. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Somehow I don't remember that conversation. You know, evidently.
We have a lot of people.
Evidently, I have, you know, what they call sometimers. Sometimes.
You have a lot of people to remember. I know you can't remember all of us.
Well, Yeah, most of the people I do, you know, the conversations, okay, they get a little foggy after a while. You know, who did I talk to? Okay. Now this is Jean, and she painted a flower on this bag that she bought. Jean, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, so tell us about this, dear.
Well, it was a swimming bag, and it had towels and bathing suits. And I mean, it's a big bag. But rather than, the only reason I sent it was because she did the sewing part, but I did the acrylic painting on it. And just since I had acrylics, and then you can take and you put, you can fix it so it won't, when you put it in the washing machine, it won't come off with vinegar and water.
Yeah.
Press it on. But it was just the fact that it was painted instead of sewn, that you can use paints on bags.
Right, on fabric, yeah. Yeah, now they make an acrylic-based fabric paint.
Right.
But yeah, you can take actual acrylic paint and, you know, now I haven't heard about the vinegar and water method. Usually what they tell you is with acrylic, you know, you do the painting, you let it dry, and then you put it in the dryer.
To set it.
And you heat it to set it, you know.
Well, sometimes that cracks.
Pardon?
If you have thick paint on it, sometimes that will crack.
Oh, okay. Well,
if you take like a dishcloth or a dish rag and you put half vinegar and half water on it and press it with an iron, it'll keep it from doing that. But I mean, I don't know telling how many times that's been in a washing machine or in a dryer, and people taking it to the beach with all kinds of garbage against it. It's a one. It's lasted for. It's at least 10 years old, maybe older.
Okay. All right.
Very
And this is like a canvas bag, right?
Yes, canvas bag.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because the white material kind of looks like raw canvas. Sort of.
Yeah. Well, the black is also canvas. It's just, you know, it was just it was already made and purchased. I don't know where it was from.
Okay. All right. And then so let's see. Now this is Lady, right?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about this.
That was my weekend project. And again, I always, I'm using these 11 by 14 canvas panels. And when I started painting it, I was thinking about, not a cockatoo, a macaw, the real colorful bird. And I started painting, it's supposed to be the wing of the bird. With all of these different colors. And so I've always enjoyed nature programs, and I love animals and things like that. I don't own any animals, but I do.
Good. You made it
love, and I do love that. So that's where I started. And a month or so ago, I was listening to something on the internet, and someone said the phrase, "What we seek is what we find." And those words just stopped me in my tracks because it's just so very true, you know. So if you seek chaos, you'll find it. If you seek peace, you'll find it. And so I was seeking color and peace and tranquility, and that's what came out. And so that's what the words that are on there, I just typed them on my computer, printed it out, and put it on there. And then also there are different markings on it. And that was my my doodling. I have some metallic permanent markers, and I just started doodling on the artwork.
Okay, so they're laid on top of the paint, right?
They're laid on top of the paint.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask you if some of these are like cut back through, like you scratched into it, or what, but okay.
Yeah.
So this is actually just another layer or another pass on top of what you had there.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Nice. All right. And then tell us about this young man and kind of what are you wanting to do here?
Okay. This is a picture of one of my many little cousins. His name is Corey. And this is actually at our aunt's funeral celebration in New Orleans in 2014. And like I explained in my email, my cousin Corey is a member of a very exclusive group of people in New Orleans, what are called the Mardi Gras Indians. And this is like, to become a Mardi Gras Indian, most people have to be born into the family. And we don't have any, Corey's the first member of our family who's been able to make it to become an Indian. And it's a very prestigious thing in New Orleans. And what it is African Americans pretty much paying homage to the native people of these lands. And so it is a big deal to be a Mardi Gras Indian. And my cousin, and all of the costumes are handmade. They're beaded and feathers and all kinds of trinkets. And I've been in discussion with my cousin about working on his next outfit. And they actually start creating those the day after Mardi Gras.
Right.
Because it takes about a year or longer to create them. And the colors are decided by the members of they're called tribes. And the members of the tribes, they decide on what color and the patterns and everything. And the biggest day for Mardi Gras Indians in New Orleans is Super Sunday, which is the closest Sunday to St. Joseph's Day. And there is a huge, huge parade. And it's a competition, which tribe can outdo the other.
Right.
And so, because I grew up sewing, and Naomi inspired me looking at her bags to show you that picture. I grew up sewing, and I love needlework and really detailed things. I've been talking with my cousin, and I'm going to help him do his costume. And Naomi was saying that, she kept saying, the ladies can do this, the ladies can do the artwork she did. Most of these are done by men.
Okay.
You know. So
now, when you say that they're trying to outdo each other, are they trying to outdo each other with the costumes, or are they playing music, or just dance?
It's everything. They're trying to outdo each other with costumes, with dances, with how many members are in your tribe. And again, it's like royalty. It's a big deal to be an Indian. And so Mardi Gras Indians, my cousin has a beautiful headdress, but they only wear the headdresses during Super Sunday. You know, they'll show up, you know, for a funeral. At this funeral, this was in front of our family home. We had a brass band. The young man with the umbrella is my cousin Hilton. We second line and give reverence to our aunt. On the ground to the right, you see hats, and there's a picture of my aunt. And they threw their hats and put down symbols of respect to my aunt. So it's very African tribe-ish, Indian tribe-like. It's just a big celebration. So we see death completely different. And so we have a big party. And so to be honored to work with my cousin would be one of my bucket list art projects that I want to do before I sign out of this big blue ball.
Okay. All right.
Lady.
Yes.
What's the orange thing that coming out of the back of the costume?
That's the back part of the costume. It's so heavy, Bernice. It's a heavy costume. Some of it used to be made out of leather, but they modified it, so it's just panels, and they're all like the face of the on his shoulder. That's all beaded work. In the front, that's all beaded work. So, and those are feathers that are on there. So the competition, like I said, on Super Sunday, they try to out costume the other members from the other tribes.
Okay. All right. So moving on, we got Larry sent this drawing.
Look how cute.
Now, Larry didn't do the drawing, but this is something that inspired him. Larry, are you here?
He left.
Lawrence? No? Come on, Daddy-O, where are you? Yep. Okay. Yeah, he's not here. So we'll save that for later. He can tell us about it. And then we have Naomi, and she sent in some drawings as well as all of her purses. Naomi?
Yes.
Yeah, so tell us about your drawings here. These are your colored pencils?
Oh, this is my colored pencils. I ordered watercolor pencils, but this is just a little lady having a good time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you look like you had a good time doing it.
Oh, I did. And I'm doing small little, I do it on watercolor paper, little paper, because I'm trying to be like Phyllis, do
Yep.
a lot, do quantity. So you know, like 200 little paintings. And you know what? It's working. I'm seeing my mistakes, and I'm doing the composition, but I see I'm doing too dark or whatever, and I'm learning a lot without going large. You
Yep.
know?
Now, let me say something about this, okay? Because I wanted to, uh-oh, I did a bad thing. I closed it. Sorry. Let me reopen it. Because one of the things that I noticed is that as you've been working on this stuff, let's start with you again. You're getting better with these pencils. You know, you're getting more medium, you know, like on the actual. Okay, are you guys seeing the?
We are.
Okay, all right. You're getting more medium. That's what I meant to hit, the thing to enlarge it, not to make it go away. But, you know, you're getting more medium on the surface, right? And you're beginning to mix your colors and sort of, you know, play with it a little bit more. And
no, but I looked up watercolor pencils, and online it said you could wet the paper first, you could do it dry, and then water on it. So I'm excited about starting my watercolors. I told you I ordered 120 watercolor pencils for like $35 or $36.
Yeah.
That's my fun in this pandemic.
All right, so let me ask you though, these are not watercolor pencils.
No, this is my old colored pencils that
so,
I'm almost done with them. So I want to get into the watercolor pencils.
All right, I know you're excited about that, but
I'm very excited about that.
Let's stay with these right now, okay?
Yeah.
Because, you know, what you're doing with them is working really well. I mean, you're beginning to get, you know, better color, and you're beginning to shift the color, you know, the temperatures and things by mixing other colors in with them. And so the surfaces of the drawings and things are really becoming pretty rich, and you're doing a nice job with that.
Could I tell you something about this? I made a big mistake on my clown.
Yeah.
If you look at the mouth, the red sort of got dark. It's too dark. You know what? I'm doing this again.
Okay.
I see my mistakes, and I'm going to do this again.
Okay. All right. You can do that. Now, it looks like you maybe used like what, a graphite pencil or something to draw
No,
this?
it's the same pencils, but when I did the red, somehow, I do have a graphite pencil. That's exactly it. And it's smudged too much. I shouldn't use that pencil. That's exactly it.
Yeah, no, use one of the color pencils, and you could use a lighter color like pink or something just to do your outline drawing.
Yes.
And then fill it in. And then the very last thing is start working with a dark pencil to put in those darker edges if you need or want them. Okay.
But the graphite smudges too much onto the color.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll make it look kind of dirty.
It ruined it. Yeah.
Okay. This guy right here. And again, you know, your color and the way you're layering your color is getting really much better. Okay. So that's a pretty nice drawing.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Now this is a mistake too. See the ears? I have to do this again. This is not good. I'm going to do this again.
Okay. Right.
I don't like the design. See, it's too vertical on his ears.
Okay.
But I learned from my mistakes.
Yep. Well, that's how that works. Now, out of everything you sent in, I find this the most interesting and compelling.
Yeah. Very nice.
It's a great graphic image, you know, of those faces with the dove, you know, in the midst of them. So what's
Something different. I saw that on the internet. So I thought you'd be interested in it. At first you see the dove and then you look closer and it's faces.
okay? Yeah. Again, you know, I like the way you're using the pencil and the color, you know, with the violets and things to make these different. And so all of that's working really pretty nicely for you, okay?
Thank you.
All right, and then this was your grandson, right? That you
Oh,
talked about.
now I have to tell you about this. He is very, very, very hyper. And 3 years ago, I came down there I bought all the grandchildren watercolor and paint, and he and one other grandchild, he liked it. So now he's 10. So at 7 years old, I saw he liked painting, and this is helping him focus.
Yeah.
So he went online and he took the instructions, made a hole in a can or something, and did this. And he ruined the driveway. So his brothers and sisters are mad, but it'll wash off because it's acrylic.
Right. Okay.
He's a devil. He's a little devil.
Okay. So you got another painter in the family. We've already done your purses. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna get down here to Surin. Are you still here, Surin?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. All right, so this is the photo that you sent, and these are your granddaughters, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and so from here, you're doing a painting, and this is the actual painting. Now, you said this is a study, right?
Yes.
Okay, how big is this?
20 by 24. Charles, I sent you a different one. This one has been worked over.
Uh-huh.
And you look at the other one instead. The
I
one I had a signature on top. Yeah, this one has been worked over.
Okay, I didn't see the other one.
It's
I got
in a
these
different
two.
email.
Okay. And these are the only two that I got that I know of. Okay.
Okay,
But-
it has been substantially worked over on the faces.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But anyway, you can go ahead.
All right. So then this is earlier than the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah, because the faces were too flat on these.
Uh-huh.
So I put more highlight and what's that?
Right, to try to push the form and stuff
Yeah.
on it. Okay. All right. Well,
Anyway, I sent to you the same day. No, actually, the next day. It was yesterday.
okay. Huh.
I don't know whether you can find it.
Now, did you send it to my Fulton County email address? Because that's where this came.
I'm not sure. Maybe the artist one.
Yeah, well, send it send it again, but send it to my Fulton County email, okay?
Okay.
If you would. All right.
Okay.
So I do have a couple comments about this, okay?
Yeah.
So in looking at the reference photo, okay,
Uh-huh.
and I'm looking at the scale and the proportions of you versus them, right?
Right.
They're still pretty young. So basically, proportionally, they're considerably smaller than you. And if you look at the size of your hand, it's really much bigger than, you painted it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
You've kind of like diminished the size of your hand here in scale. And so it could be, I'm not saying, a lot larger, but they are larger than what you've got here.
Hey, Charles, your email, the one with Fulton County?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sending it to you now.
Okay, fine. But yeah, check your proportions. The other thing, it's like the girl here, she's got kind of a nice relaxed pose. She's got kind of a nice relaxed pose. The only one who needs a relaxed pose is
It's the old
Surin.
man.
Yeah, somehow, it looks a little stiff, right? And so, I would do a couple of sketches, a couple of drawings, and try to work that out.
Okay, take a look at the latest file and maybe a little bit different.
Okay, yeah, I will. Okay, after the class. I can't get it right.
Charles,
Yes.
About that picture, I know that, and I've experienced it a lot of times, these cell phone cameras distort pictures.
Yes.
And because his hands are up closer to the lens, it made them look larger. Your hand is about the size of your face, I think, and I think that hand on the photograph is too large.
Do you? Yeah, I'm kind of thinking it's probably a little too small.
Okay.
Because you're, okay, the size of your hand is actually from your chin to your hairline, okay, normally. Now, that's a general, you know, it's not a rule, but it's, you know, just a general proportion, okay? And that works in like 99% of the people. You know, occasionally you run into somebody with particularly small or particularly large hands. It doesn't work, you know, in that case. But, you know, here, yeah, proportionally to her, it's like, yeah, the hand feels a little bit.
I think that is small, but the one on the photograph is enlarged, I think, isn't it?
Not so much. Yeah, I think that's probably closer in scale, you know. And so the difference here is, you know, we're talking about, you know, maybe like 5 to 10% difference, you know, and it's not so much lengthwise as it is just the weight of it. And you don't really see as much of the hand as he's painted here in the photograph. See?
Looks like the fingers need to be thicker.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the height of it. And it's also that this plane right here needs to recede and go backward. And in the painting, it's a little bit flat. It doesn't really seem to go back in space, right?
Right.
So, you know, like right here, there's kind of a distinct change in value between, you know, the fingers that are catching most of the light, and then this, you know, top plane of the hand is kind of falling back into more shadow.
How old is the big girl?
13.
Oh, she's 13. And the little one?
12.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, you know, as far as the girls go, you know, they feel kind of appropriate to their age and their scale and their size. You know, like I said, it's you. Okay. It's all
Okay,
about
what I'd
you.
like for you to help me, because I'm going to make a bigger painting with this,
right,
is to give me a critique, you know, the background, the softness. I send you pictures about the softness of the eyes and the rosy cheek. I have a trouble putting rosy cheek on faces through acrylic. And also the softness through acrylic.
Yeah. Now these are acrylic, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, we can talk more about that. You know, but yeah, with the acrylic, the difficulty with the acrylic is that it is hard to get softer edges because you don't have the time to blend, unless you know, you use this kind of in a layered type painting style where you're putting in, you know, your initial shapes and getting all of your composition set up, and then you go back in and you know, work in very small areas and render, you know, the features on the face. Now for the rest of the painting, you can be looser and more direct, but you know, when you get in around those facial features and things, you know, you need to work in small shapes and areas at a time and keep the paint wet so that you can move it and blend it and soften it. Okay?
I was wondering for a final painting, which is much larger, whether I should use oil for the faces, like a mixed medium.
You could, you know, in fact, what you could do is you could do the whole painting pretty much so as an acrylic painting, and then come back in, and in areas that you need to blend and soften, like in around the eyes and the face and things like that, you could use oil over that or over parts of it to begin to get those softer effects.
Okay, so you could just use spot on the spot, right? Not
not
on the whole face, just on the spot.
Right. So you might go back in and just kind of paint kind of the features of the face, really, you know, in the oil paint, so that you can blend and soften edges, you know.
Okay, the question is, should should I, or is it a better approach that way?
No.
Well, it would solve your issue of, you know, keeping this kind of painterly and kind of loose, and then keeping your focus, you know, really right in the areas that you want, which is really kind of here. You know, that's kind of the hero of the painting, is this kind of diagonal shape, you know, that's, you know, with the 3 faces, actually 4 faces if you want to get this guy in.
Can you tell me about the composition and the contrast and all, okay, where I should improve?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, the composition is kind of nice, except for, like I said, you look kind of stiff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, you know, just a drawing problem that I think if you did a couple of studies that you could solve, you know, in kind of getting the flow of your figure. You know, you've got the flow of her figure really nicely and hers. You know, it's you. Like I said. Now, as far as your background stuff, you know, your background overall is working pretty well. Now, I'm not real sure what I'm looking at here. It's kind of abstract. You know, I'm reading this as a large tree, maybe some shrubs, another tree or so. And then I'm not really sure what this area is, whether
it's actually a wall of a house. I'm thinking about putting some windows in there.
Okay.
Right now, I think I'm reluctant because I don't want it to distract from the painting.
Yeah, and I don't think you really need to, you know. I mean, I kind of read that as probably the wall or a piece of architecture, because I'm kind of reading this as like maybe a tile roof or something on top
I think
of it.
in my final painting, I would change the background to more like a distant view, taking out a building.
Yeah, you could. Though there's really nothing wrong, you know, with a piece of architecture back here, as long as, well, you know, as long as it reads like a piece of architecture and you don't think it's like a landscape. You know, I was going back and forth of, okay, so from this point forward, is this a landscape and something going back into the distance, and these are some distant trees up here? And then what is this? Is this a mountain, or, you know? So I was
basically it's a building with roof.
Okay, all right. So, you know, again, as long as you make it look like a building,
yeah,
then
okay, I need to work on
there's nothing wrong with, you know, what you've got back there. You just have to make it read like a building. And the thing is, you were asking about the composition, and it's nice the way that, you know, if you can unify this and make this look, you know, like a piece of architecture, then see, that kind of offsets this other abstract shape over here of your sky. And so they sort of balance each other out. You know, and so it sets up a nice, interesting composition rather than just kind of rectangular blocks. Because you got that diagonal running across here. And so that makes an interesting shape here. It makes an interesting shape down here. So that part's, you know, working pretty well.
Would it help if I change the background to like a distant view, like, you know, maybe on the lake with some sky and building in the background?
Yeah, you could. I mean, you know, you can do anything you want back there. The thing is, just make sure that whatever you put back there doesn't compete with figures.
Don't you think the tree on the left is competing?
The tree on the left is what?
Competing.
Complete?
Competing with the
Oh,
figures.
competing. No. No. No, I mean, I stay focused here on the figures.
Okay.
You know, and I'm, you know, I'll kind of go up and down this line right here, and then I kind of come over here, and then, you know, the roof, and back down to you guys again. So, you know, the way it is, I mean, your eye is moving through the painting pretty nicely. You know, I mean, since you've already got this down here and you got that solved, I don't know that I would change it. Okay. You know, I'm okay with a wall back there. You know, I'm okay with a roof line, you know, and things back there. That's fine. you know, it kind of puts you in the context of being, you know, in a garden, which you would think you are anyway because of the plants around you and the trees. So it just kind of reinforces that idea.
Yeah. I'm wondering whether the foreground of the plant and the tree on the left, are they kind of separated or look confusing together?
Well, it does. It pulls forward a little bit because the color is darker and more intense here. And then you've got these little splashes of purple in here, which I'm kind of reading as maybe a hydrangea. You know, and I think there's enough separation between, you know,
Okay.
the value and intensity of your tree versus this area. You know, Eloise and I were talking about that earlier about, you know, pushing and pulling space. And this is a pretty good example how right in here, the color gets more intense and it moves forward. And the color back in here is a little more muted and it pushes back. So you see, you know, to me, I mean, they separate okay.
Okay.
You know, I'm not worried about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Let's talk about Veronica's painting. Is Veronica still here?
I'm still here.
Okay. Yay. I'm glad you guys hanging in here with me. I know we're over time. So tell us about this.
Oh, this is from the highway on 46 in New Jersey. You see the mountains and the lakes. I'd like to put more.
In New Jersey?
Yeah.
Are there mountains in New Jersey?
Yeah, there are.
Really? I lived in New Jersey. I never saw mountains. What part of New Jersey are there mountains in?
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah? Okay.
Denville.
Daniel? Is that in like northern, is that toward Philly or is that toward Cape May?
No, it's north. You're going towards New York State.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Huh. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think of New Jersey as having, you know, like hills or mountains.
Yeah.
I think of New Jersey as being pretty flat, you know. But of course, you know, I was in what, Atlantic City and Jersey City and Cape May. So
those areas are flat, but as you go north,
yeah,
you go into the mountains.
It's bumpy, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
No mountain.
All right. Say what?
Pocomo Mountain on the north of New Jersey towards the New York State.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, it's beautiful during autumn time.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't traveled to that part of New Jersey, you know. So I mean, I remember lots of marshes and, you know, big oak trees and, you know, there's a lot of scenery in New Jersey, you know, going from like little town to little town. But
yes.
yeah, I never got in that part of it. So yeah, maybe something to keep in mind. Maybe I'll go there one day.
If it's anything left.
If there's anything left? Okay.
Yeah.
Why? What are they doing to it now?
Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the painting part of it. All right.
Okay.
So this feels kind of early on.
It is.
Okay. And so where are you gonna go from there? From here?
I think I want to work on the mountains and the sky a little bit more blue.
Okay.
And the mountains, I need a little bit more more greens on the left side because that just to me just sticks out with the brown.
Okay. So I got some issues with this. Okay.
Okay.
Remember what Eloise and I were talking about the intensity of the color as it moves back,
right,
you know, to the horizon line. And I don't know how far these mountains are supposed to be away from you. Okay. But to me, they feel awfully close because of all of the really intense green in here. And I kind of question whether something sitting across a body of water from me would be that intense in green.
Okay.
I'm thinking it's got to get grayed down a little bit so that it pushes back. And then you have this big brown shape, which is another mountain that's closer to us. See? And so that pushes that even further back. So to me, it doesn't make any real sense that the intensity of the color here would be so much stronger than the intensity of the color on you know, a very similar object, another mountain, that's actually closer to us. And then, of course, you have all of this down here, marshland or whatever that is. That's even closer to us, and yet the color here, you know, is fairly muted and dark. And I'm just guessing that you haven't really developed that area, but somehow, you know, your problem here in painting this landscape is how are you going to get this to feel like it's the furthest away from you, and that as you move this way, this is actually coming forward. And so far, you know, that's working, you know, in this direction. You know, this does seem to be pulling forward. That does seem to be pushing back. But then you go the opposite direction, and just the opposite happens. You see, this is so intense compared to the color here. And so how do you intensify this color, or how do you mute this color to get it to sit back? You following what I'm...
I do.
Okay. So I want you to think about that a little bit and look at your reference, you know, and try to figure out what's really going on there, okay?
Okay.
You know, right now, yes, okay, the mountain is green. The question is which green? How intense does it need to be? How far is it? Right? What's the atmospheric condition on the day when we're seeing that mountain? You know, is there a lot of humidity in the air, and is it kind of misty and foggy, or is it, you know, like a hot, dry, you know, summer day that's, you know, like no humidity and very clear and you can see forever, right?
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that leaves us with 2 more paintings. We're done. And this is Wanda.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
so-
goodness.
Yeah, so this is her, yeah, this is her yarn thing she's been working on with the, and you know, where she went with this, I love. It's really,
Oh, it's wonderful.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay, Wanda, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right. So tell us more about these. I mean, I think we've looked at this before, but you've gone further on it now. You've got the hair in her, and you changed something over here, didn't you?
No, this art is about 8 years old.
Okay.
And I've been working on it off and on. And so I finally decided to put the jewelry on the neckline of the ladies, and to put the frame of the wood squares I've got going around it.
Right.
But the yarn, was there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I just
remember it
elaborate
here.
more.
Yeah. But now over here, wasn't there something?
Cloth. That's a scarf. That's a scarf
Yeah.
I made. It's made of cloth.
Uh-huh.
And I just made it look 3D by putting some batting underneath it when I sewed it. That's gold trimming I put on there.
Okay.
That I sewed on. But this was before I knew anything about shading or putting things on the face. So the faces are more flat.
Yeah.
Than most.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know, that's perfectly fine because this has such a strong, you know, designed and graphic look to it. You know, you don't really need, you know, to have the faces rendered in any way. You know, you get the idea. And you did a nice job, you know, at drawing them and putting the features and things on them. So, you know, good job.
I like the hair going beyond the frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely, you know, it's almost, well, it is in fact 3-dimensional, but
yeah.
it would almost be considered a three-dimensional piece of art rather than a two-dimensional piece.
Yeah.
Even though I'm assuming this does hang on the wall, right?
Yes, yes, it does.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of a traditional painting or picture, and then other ways, you know, it's completely non-traditional and kind of, you know, mixed media, kind of experimental. Okay.
Yes, yes.
How did you shape the clothing? Did you do that after you, I mean, was it shaped before you put it on there, or you stretched it to shape it afterwards?
The clothing you said?
Yes.
Well, that's all yarn. Everything there is yarn.
Yeah.
All the designs is yarn.
Yeah, all this down in here. Yeah. Yeah. And
The yellow is orange. Is it yarn too?
Is what?
That the yellow in the girl in the middle.
Yes.
That's yarn.
Everything on here is
Yeah,
yarn
right.
except for the faces, which have been painted.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
No, I see a face in the green scarf. I see a face.
In the scarf?
In the scarf, I see a face looking to the left out of the painting. Do you see that?
Yeah, kind of. Okay. So Naomi,
Uh-huh.
you see faces and everything.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
How weird.
Yeah. But you're right. Yeah, I kind of see like a forehead, an eye socket, the nose. Yeah.
And the mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're looking at.
Yeah,
The
so there's
like
kind of a head
profile, like
You
okay.
know, that way. Okay. All right. So you got one more piece. You got this. So tell us about that, Wanda.
Well, this is a small 5x7, and I was trying to do a little bit of experiment with watercolors. And I just like the way that the purple and the blue made a little edging on there. It was just an experiment in it.
Uh-huh. So let me ask you, okay, this is watercolor, but it's on a canvas panel, right?
It's on a regular canvas, not the panel.
Is it like a stretch canvas on a frame?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a very small one, just a 5x7.
Okay, yeah. So I guess my question is, what inspired you to do watercolor on like a regular canvas?
I was just an experiment. I was just trying to see how the colors would come together and show up the background and the foreground. That's all it was.
Okay. Well, and I, you know, and I'm not being critical of that. Okay, but the point that I'm trying to get to is, it's interesting that you put watercolor on a traditional canvas rather than paper, but you know, there's probably some challenges in working with it, because the canvas would be kind of a slicker, less absorbent surface than paper. But at the same time, there's also opportunities, you know, to, like when you're modeling the skin, like on her face, like in here, you know, it looks like you come back in and you've kind of picked up or lifted out like little areas to lighten, you know, parts of her face. Is that true, or?
Yeah, I was trying to put some kind of shadowing. I didn't know. I was just seeing how things would turn out.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing. And I didn't have watercolor paper.
Right.
So I used the canvas.
Okay. So I want you to look somebody up.
Okay.
Okay. Write his name down. Okay.
I'm ready.
His name is Bart, B-A-R-T.
Okay.
Forbes, F-O-R-B-E-S.
Okay.
And he was an illustrator. Okay. Now, Bart worked both in oil, but he also worked in watercolor.
Okay.
And maybe even gouache. But he used a process that they call a lift-out technique.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is real interesting, because how it works is you do a drawing, right? And then you take, you know, after your drawing, you fix it so it won't move or smear or smudge or anything like that. And then you take watercolor or gouache. Usually he used like watercolor because it's more transparent. And he mixed up a dark color, usually kind of a brownish or some kind of neutral tone. And then he would paint the whole canvas with it. And then as it dried, again, it's a transparent medium, so he could still see where his drawing was, right? Okay. So he would take a brush or a series of brushes, some small, some large, and some water, and he would sit there and he would lift that neutral color out wherever it was light on a face or anything like that. And he'd lift it back and kind of create a range of values and let that dry again. And then he would spray it and fix it so that none of that color would move around. And then he would come back in, and his final passage was more watercolor over the top of it, but he would just use like tints of color. Tints as in T-I-N-T-S, okay, not T-E-N-T-S, okay? And so he would do these thin, washes of color over these areas just to kind of modify them, and to wherever he had lifted the color out, to add a little richness, into that area. And so I want you to really kind of look at some of his work. And if you have another 5x7, I want you to take your watercolor and I want you to, take half of it and just paint it out dark. And then I want you to go back in and I want you to just take a clean brush with water only, not soaking wet, just kind of damp, and go back in and lift out areas, okay? And begin to, see if you can push and pull the paint and make a range of value out of that, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll have fun with it. And if you look at what he's done, it could be, kind of inspiring. Because when I look at this piece, there's a lot of, really good possibilities, like up here in the hair. If you had painted that all in fairly dark and then taken your brush and just some water and lifted out, little bits of where the midtones were, and then let that dry, and then come back in and really lift out just the highlights in the hair, I think you could have a lot of fun in doing it. And I think it would give you a softer, kind of more, I guess, representational effect, if that's what you're after, okay?
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Yeah, just take a look at him. There's him, and there's another guy you could look at too. And his name is Robert Hindell, H-I-N-D-E-L, I believe, is how you spell that. And, they were both illustrators back in the, 80s and 90s. And really, really good, strong artists, but, good designers and good use of color and stuff. But look at both of their work, and I think you might find some inspiration from those, okay?
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. So anybody?
Hi, Charles. Can you repeat the name of the first artist? But what? B-A-R-T?
Art. Yeah, B-A-R-T, Forbes, F-O-R-B-E-S.
Thank you. I got it. Yes.
All right. So anybody got any other questions, anything they need to say before we go away till Wednesday?
This was fun.
Okay.
It was.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
I had a great time.
Yeah, I had a good time seeing all of you and talking with you, as always. Okay.
Same here.
All right. So if nobody's got anything else, then we'll close it out, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Okay. And we'll be talking again about painting portraits, and I'll have a little more information for you. Okay. But this evening I'll try to send out that email with that color mixing chart. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Charles.
Okay.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
All right. Stay
Thank you,
safe.
Charles.
Have fun. Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. And we'll see you on Wednesday.
Yeah.